What's up, guys? Welcome back to another fantastic video here with your boy Gigs. I am back out here on the lovely world. I did not die last time. I know it seemed like I died, but I didn't. Luke and Evelyn are still dead. I had another research partner. Her name was like Jay, but he died too researching this. So I'm here to avenge them once again and talk about this beautiful topic. My shoe is wet now. And the factory industry. And this is an example of the factory industry and how it's evolved. So that was it, like the factory industry, but before that, we should go back in the days. Back in my day, we had this thing called the cottage industry. Basically, the cottage industry was where like families back in like the Arabian times, they would come together and they would have to like muster the resources together and they have to create things together. Like as a family, they don't have to like create. They would come together, they'd start working on their things, you know, like the shirts, like this is totally cottage industry, don't fact check me on that. And so they had to make things like that, like kitchen tools and stuff. And well, whenever they'd have an excess amount of like stuff like this, then they just sell it. And that's the kind of like the core basics of the cottage industry. And well, this system lasted for quite a bit of time, ever since like the mid 1600s all the way up to like the very early 1800s. That's kind of like when this like industrial revolution started popping off. This industry is still kind of present out here in today's world, and yes, of course it is. Just go on Facebook Marketplace. I am selling this very hoodie here right now only for the cheap price of $67 and 67 cents. But so that's kind of like it's still alive. There are people selling like their clothes online on like Facebook, TikTok Marketplace. Don't trust TikTok Marketplace, only trust Facebook Marketplace. But that's kind of how it is. And people also like have their own small little businesses going on in their homes, like a bakery, like where they make like bread. Like one of my friends' mom's actually makes bread. Check her out. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. And would you look at this? You actually have a factory worker here with us. How are things like in the factory?
It's pain. I wouldn't recommend it, but whatever keeps my family fed.
Well, there you got it. Don't work in factories, guys. Well, would you look at this? Cottage industry worker appeared out of nowhere. How are things like?
You know, it was a little worrisome at first with the Industrial Revolution and all, but for the cottage industry, actually hospitality is going up because people want a break from all of these factories and, you know, these mass production of homes.
I see.
And so now cottages are quaint, they're cute, and we offer more intimate services for our people. And we also have 5-star ratings that they like to carve in the bedposts as they leave. So I would encourage anyone who wants to get away from the hustle and bustle of the big cities to come visit our cottages.
Wow, if I were you, I'd visit immediately. I'm gonna go after this. Alright, so what you just saw were like 2 examples of some differences between both industries. You already saw those 2 workers. One of them, well, they're suffering through some problems. The other one seems quite happy. That's one difference. Their conditions, their working conditions are quite different. Like one of them, as you already saw, they're kind of decrepit and old, and they seem to be kind of struggling with life. Poor guy. And the other one, well, they seem kind of happy. They seem cheerful that they don't have to put as much work and manual labor into it. That's just one difference into it. A similarity would be like how they're both creating stuff for other people. Like they both produce items. They both are making things in order to sell them. But the difference is how they make them. Like you already know, the cottage industry, they make them by hand, step by step. Well, in look at that. I missed. But well, in the factory industry, well, what was it just talking about? Well, in the factory industry, they kind of make their things like through like obviously factories, but like they use stuff like the assembly line, which Mr. Henry Ford himself, my sock is wet, would be that they both require the extraction of raw materials to be more exact, in order to actually be able to create the things that they're trying to create. I kind of got myself stuck in here. That's one disadvantage of the factory industry. They create quite a bit of waste. Like, what's it called? Pollution. They create quite a bit of pollution. Another disadvantage is, man, it gets hot in here. It gets hot in there. So much manual labor and work. Might as well say goodbye to your sweaters because, like, I might as well take off my shirt. I'm not gonna take off my shirt, but damn, I'm sure some of them would sometimes want to do that. Gets so hot in there, so much manual labor. Like we saw that one worker pretty much dying. You want to feel like you're dead. You'd rather die than go back to work. No, take me. Would you look at this? A slave appeared from the cottage industry? How are things like as a slave?
It's not nice. Everything's hard. Cotton picking is really hard. Every day and night, they don't let us take a break. No food, no water, no rest.
I see.
Take away our families.
Well, there you have it. Don't be a slave, guys. And we have a good factory worker here who helped create this. What would you say? How was it like creating this?
It took a lot of work. I mean, manufacturing all these different variety of sodas, it came along hard getting them to be able to dispense. But yeah, it took time and I was able to do it.
Proud of you. Well, we talked about some disadvantages. Let's talk about some advantages, shall we? Would you look at this? We have right here a factory owner, manager, who knows, but how's it like managing a factory?
Oh, it's wonderful. I own everything and I just have everyone else do all the work and I make all the money.
There you have it. Become a factory owner, guys. So let's talk about some advantages about the cottage and the factory industry, shall we? Well, it helps mass produce things like this, like that one worker was talking about. It helped mass produce this, and well, it helped a lot with mass production. It actually really boosted the economy. Hi, Mr. Tyler! It really helped boost the economy quite a bit. Faster, cheaper, more affordable, okay. And well, it helped make things cheaper, more affordable, and honestly, the quality of life, because there are so many products available, was great. It's great. And well, it also made products go for sale for cheaper, because since there was more, things were just kind of cheaper. And well, let's talk about some advantages about the cottage industry, like how workers weren't so mistreated, because well, obviously there were less workers. And can I see that? And well, it had just lower startup costs, and quite frankly, and it was honestly just better for smaller businesses, since there were so many. It was quite easy to kind of like jumpstart one. But what about disadvantages though? Well, quite frankly, well, there were less products for sale. Obviously, things would go out of sale quite a bit of the time. They could really sell out easily, and they would always require the purchases of raw materials in order to make things. And well, this kind of got me thinking, well, which system is more effective? We got the cottage industry and the factory industry. Well, honestly, it'd probably be like the factory industry, mostly just because mass production happens, and so there are a lot of products for sale. Products don't really go out of sale that much. They don't sell out, and quite frankly, stuff would just genuinely just be cheaper, just because there are more things for sale. And also, it just provided a lot more jobs, and a lot more stable jobs, because people wouldn't get fired. But those jobs were a little questionable. Well, this also kind of got me wondering, is there a place for both of these? And the answer is yes. Just like this field, there's a place for both the strikers and the outfielders. So of course it's gonna be a place for both. You know, like there's a place for factory industry, like in like big areas, like big cities, like New York. Of course there's gonna be a place for them, because obviously you need a lot of goods there. But like for a small town, like a really small town, almost like a village, smaller than this place, the cottage industry could really work, because like handmade things really support small businesses like that. And plus, even in like bigger cities, if you want something handmade, like let's say you want like a handmade keychain like me, then you can just find online someone who's selling. And so there's technically a place for both, even in big cities. Well, this also kind of got me wondering, how did this kind of lead to more growth in like industrialized nations? Well, the answer to this, the Industrial Revolution, can I see that again? Well, it kind of led to a lot of like items being, like a lot more items being produced and it for being cheaper, which kind of led to made stuff become more cheaper, which led to more people working in industries rather than working in agriculture, causing like a huge like kind of like change within like the economy, because more people were changing to more factory shifted jobs rather than going to more agriculture type jobs, since everybody was like kind of like moving more to like big cities in order to work. Well, and all this, like the more people working in the factory industries, led to there being more profit for factory owners, which basically meant that there was more money, more profits for the government as well. And so they benefited from that and started creating more like factories within the government in order to profit more. So, well, the final thing my fallen brethren were trying to discover before this was, well, like the rise of the Industrial Revolution lead to like competition between nations, which eventually caused imperialism and colonialism. Well, competition for sure, because like the UK was getting pretty rich off of the Industrial Revolution, because obviously there are factories happening, more people working, more things getting sold. So the government was prophesizing off of that. Not prophesizing, they're profiting off of that. And so that kind of led to like other nations that kind of like didn't like Great Britain to kind of like try competing with it. So they themselves started having like revolutions of their own, industrial revolutions of their own, which led to a lot more factories and industrialization happening across different nations, which was made to kind of compete with Great Britain in order to actually compete with them, because nobody liked Great Britain, seriously. And yeah, and so with more people industrializing led to more mass production of items, which obviously would lead to, oh, it's getting hot in here again, which would obviously lead to more people developing weapons, because obviously that's what industrialization does. More advanced weapons leads to people getting more mad at other people. And since they have the weapons, they kind of like go up and like, hey, we're taking you. You can't resist because we have more weapons than you, because obviously they want to invade countries that weren't as industrialized as they were, because they have more weapons because of the industrialization. And so since they had more weapons, they thought they were more powerful. Not me, look at these muscles that don't exist. And so they kind of started invading, which led to imperialism and colonialism. And it also leads us to our basically final question, which was, well, if all this is the case, did it lead to World War? Probably, because like I said, more people industrializing, more weapons led to people threatening each other, more threatening led to more threatening, which led to violence, and violence, more violence, which led to like 6-7 wars over like the past, more than 6-7 wars obviously, but you know what I mean. Luke, not again, Luke.